he said, listen, we're going to bring out war effects to make the game. And I'm sat here right now, and I don't know if it's easier or harder, and I can't make my mind up because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that. So, this is a bit of a long story. So we'll go back to I think it started with a bit of conversation in playtest on my channel or whatever it was, and I was talking about buffs in segments. So maybe an 8 to 10 week buff, and I sort of suggested that we should buff a bot for that 8 to 10 weeks to encourage people to level it. I think most of playtest, and self-confessed, I thought it was a good idea, but playtest sort of said that, no one's really going to, from week one, level the bot up really, really high to max it out for the next 6 weeks to use. I was like, you know what, you've got a point. That's a fair point. If you're going to do this, it needs to be for a few months. And then does it get a bit stale and a bit boring? So it's quite hard. But this goes back to an idea I had quite a while back. Whereas if you've got a certain bot, it sort of, you get that at a certain level. So if you have, say, 5-star top spin, whatever level he is, it gets a 5 level buff, say. Something like that. Just where he gets a buff. You don't have to spend money and level it. He just gets the buff for that time to encourage you to use him. And whether that would be a relevant buff into the game. Use it in Prime League. Use it in Cybertron. Whatever. Make it for all leagues. Who knows? But it's just an idea that I sort of had to buff all bots. And make them sort of relevant in the game. So Space Saber sort of took that idea, which I thought was a pretty good idea in a way. Maybe it's not really fully thought out within the timescales. And thought, right, okay, what we'll do is we'll give a class an improvement. Let's look at electric and give electric class an improvement. Now the problem with that is if you choose a whole class, Sea Spray and Bumblebee are used quite a bit right now in the game, and they're quite, I wouldn't say OP, but are very, very, very good bots at the top level of the game. Now, if they buff all the electric class, all that's going to happen is everyone will use Sea Spray and B. They're not going to use anyone else with electric damage below that because they're not very good anyway. So why would you go from a not very good bot to a decent bot when you can use a pretty OP bot to make them very OP? And so I said this to Dale, that's not a good idea, buffing a whole class. But typical Space Ape, because they put so much effort into it, I think they're going to go ahead with it anyway. And started talking about war effects and making things hard. And I said, you do realise, Dale, that they've said that war participation is not where they want it to be. It's dropped. And I said, the problem isn't that war participation is because it's too hard. It's because there's not enough bots that are relevant. And so if you want to make some bots more relevant in wars, you need to go back and buff them individually. But then what they come out with is the 5 bots that I talked about a minute ago. Grimlock, Trailbreaker, Skydive. They're not going to make people all of a sudden a Prime League hard mode player. Those kind of bots, because they're so far away from the meta. So, I'm not too sure what Space Up are doing there in terms of these war buffs. And they're trying to make it harder by increasing the HP and DPS, which makes one-shots less relevant, which I'm not a fan of. But then they're also increasing the electrical damage. So that means you just spam Sea Spray and B. So they're sort of making 2 bots massively relevant and a lot of bots irrelevant. And I just don't get what they're trying to do. If they want to make wars harder, just bring out Phase 3. We know half of it is there already. Just bring out Phase 3. And if some of it is not ready yet, bring that out in a Phase 4. We've got, the Onyx core that is ready to be balanced. We had that about 9 months ago. And we considered it was really OP. And they got taken away, and we haven't seen it since. We had anti-acid and anti-fire cores for build bots, and at the time we said that it's not really fair because the Titans had anti-fire, and it was just sort of killing fire damage. And then they decided to take it away. We could easily bring that out as just anti-acid. We could do that. There's so many options to do other than war effects. And I just don't see. For me, a lot of these decisions make no sense at all. Space Ape seems to shift from one decision to the next, and they do a project. There's no thought process behind it. Do they want to make wars harder? Yes or no? If they do, then yeah, just do war effects. You don't need this buffing these classes. If they want to make more bots relevant, then look at individual bots and give them a buff, or give them a buff for a time even, or something like that. You don't have to buff a class. you know, then all this feedback is in playtest. All this feedback is there, and I'm just not sure on the direction they're going with the game. I'm baffled, and so for me, I've almost completely lost faith in Space Ape sort of running a good game and having a sense of direction and going, this is where we want to go. And it's just all over the show. And I'm absolutely baffled where it's going. And so that's sort of the reason why I'm sort of the way I'm about war, not even about wars, but about the game right now and about playtest, is that there's just no direction, just lacks some direction. Just needs someone to take the ball by the horns and go, this is where we're going. And I've said to Dale that war participation is not down to difficulty. It's simply down to the fact that people, yes, the game has got more difficult, but the problem is now is that some people have to do 10 war attacks in a day. And if you're not coining your bot, which is most people, that's 10 hours in a day. People don't have 10 hours in a day to log in every hour. And going back to my video a long time ago about removing cooldowns from wars, said that a long time ago, and it's just sort of fell on deaf ears. And you know, and people said, you know, people will rage coin, or you know, flame out very quickly if they don't have cooldowns. Well, that's their choice. You know, people still have the same choice right now to coin the bot, but people need to take a bit of time. But at least you've got maybe a 5-hour window to complete them war attacks, and you could beat one base, fail on base 3, put the brakes on, stop, ask for some feedback, wait an hour or so, and then go at it again. But you're not waiting for your cooldown on base 1 and base 2. You can get through them bases faster. So for me, there's some easy options to make wars more viable. And I don't think they need to raise the difficulty anymore. I don't think they need to lower it. I think wars are probably where they need to be for Prime League hard mode. It's hard for me to sort of talk about gold and platinum and leagues like that because I don't want war in there. So it's very hard for me to say, is the difficulty where it needs to be? But if it's too difficult at them levels, then there's an answer there. They can increase the debuff. So for those that are not aware, in lower zones below Cybertron, the zones have a debuff where the HP of the buildings is actually lower than what the general HP is. So Cybertron is the sort of benchmark where all the HP is true, where it is what it is. Then at least below that, the HP is dropped. So, you know, there are some easy answers out there to make wars more viable, but I just don't think they want to do it.